Good morning, St. Francis, and good morning, people of God. It is Thursday, the 8th day of February, 2024, Thursday of the 5th week of the year, the 5th week in Ordinary Time. There are 6 days until Ash Wednesday and the beginnings of the season of Lent. So just a little countdown that's happening. But today, on this Thursday of the 5th week of the year, we continue again the saga of the kings and the leadership of ancient Israel. Solomon has grown old, and Solomon has too many wives. Again, so this is the polygamy was not something that was kind of shunned in ancient Israel. I always have to remember that. And so the variety of wives that Solomon basically amasses to himself all bring their own cultures and traditions and things like that. And today, unfortunately, some of those cultures and traditions were not always healthy for Israel or healthy for Solomon in trying to remain firm in the covenant that God has established with him. And so Solomon's wives bring their gods and goddesses to be able to worship to Israel, and they set up temples and all kinds of sacrifices. And again, there's the one sacrifice that is made to the god Molech, and as archaeologists uncover it, that sacrifice seemed to involve child sacrifice, and so this was not something that God was very happy with. And so the prevalence of all of these gods and goddesses that Solomon has decided to affirm and is breaking the covenant that God had established with Solomon. Basically, God is now going to punish Solomon again in all of his wisdom and all of his beauty and all of his wonder. Solomon couldn't read the signs of the times or even the moment by having these wives bring these religious practices into Israel. And so again, it shows human wisdom, even if it is bestowed by God, is finite. It can only go so far, and it doesn't mean you're not going to make mistakes. So to rely upon human wisdom alone is never ever enough. And so God basically says that he's going to punish Solomon's heirs, and he's going to give the throne to somebody else, and it's not going to happen in his lifetime, but it'll happen to those who will come after him. And so it is kind of a foreshadowing, and whether that's is written back into history or something that does predict what's going to happen, it is about the fall of Israel and its divisions and the exiles. But then there is the prophecy that a remnant will be left, and that will be the remnant of Judah, the one, and Benjamin, the two tribes that sort of remain as the core of Israel after the rest of the kingdom falls apart. Again, human wisdom is only good insofar as it is in service to God. If it is not in service to God, then it really doesn't work. It doesn't really hold. In the gospel today, we have the most fantastic of readings. It is repeated in all the synoptics, but this is where Jesus is rude and insensitive. And again, how does Jesus be rude and insensitive? He's the Son of God. He's so wonderful. Well, not really, according to the scripture writers. And this is, again, always part of Jesus's coming into understanding of who and what he is. Again, to be all-knowing, omnipotent, omniscient, all these other kinds of categories that we throw onto God or onto Christ may not always be how we think all-knowing and omnipotent and omniscient is. And so we have this case of this Syrophoenician woman. Again, she appears in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and this is in Mark. Sometimes it is her, sometimes it is somebody else. This, in Mark's gospel, it's her daughter. And her daughter seems to be possessed again by a demon, because Mark just loves demons again. He just can't get enough of them. And so the woman asks Jesus, for help. But again, she's a non-Jew. She's a Syrophoenician woman. And Jesus basically responds to her and says, don't take the food from the children. It's like it's not fitting for dogs. And so he calls her a dog. He is insulting to her, insensitive, rude, all kinds of things, and almost dismissive, of her. But she persists. And basically she says, but yet the dogs can eat what drops from the table, of the children. And that has Jesus stop in his tracks. Now, there are so many people who are going to try to retool this, to make Jesus look good, because that's what we have to do for some reason, because we have to protect Jesus from himself. But this is where Jesus learns, not necessarily from God or from some kind of vision, but from this non-Jewish woman about what his ministry should be, which is not just to the children of Israel, but to all people, all humanity, all of creation. And this woman's daughter is healed of this affliction of a demon or whatever it was, because of her persistence in knowing who Jesus needs to be. Jesus needs to be for her and for her daughter. That is something perhaps for all of us to kind of consider at times. Who does Jesus need to be for us? Not in a selfish way, not in an arrogant way, not in a way that throws our own agendas around, but this woman asks of this for her daughter, for someone else. Her other-centered thinking enables Jesus to begin to expand, the horizons of his mission. And it happens, at the hands of someone who was a non-Jew. Important thing, perhaps for us to consider as to how others who may not be Christian or Catholic can help us to see the world in a much broader horizon than sometimes we allow ourselves to see it. A blessed day, St. Francis and people of God. May the Lord give you his peace.